Welcome to Logically Speaking, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges in cybersecurity with top experts in the field. Today, you're going to learn how to keep your data safe, your operations sound, and your business ready for whatever comes next. This is Logically Speaking. With the conflict in the Ukraine, we saw that there was an aspect of cyber warfare in that kind of initial attacks. Any thoughts on that, on how that's going to evolve? You know, we got the alerts from the government that said, be aware, we're at a heightened state of possible cyber attacks from Russia, and then it never really materialized. But
or did it? Or did it? And that's
that's a good point.
So that's you know, I mean, I could talk. We could do an hour talk on this alone. You know, there's been some pretty good books written recently on these topics. Actually, there's one of them behind me here, The Art of Cyber Warfare by John DiMaggio. You should read that book. It's a good book. Our adversaries, I won't name the specific countries right now, but our adversaries have for years been successfully infiltrating our power grids and our networks, you know, the nation state components of these countries, primarily Russia, North Korea, and Iran, or and China are kind of the ones we're talking about. China's been doing it primarily for industrial espionage, less cyber warfare, but they're similar in that some of the stuff that they're stealing is military. I do think so. Again, I'm going to try to make a short version of this thing, but like we created an amazing cyber weapon when we did Stuxnet. Yeah. It's amazing, remarkable that and for the listeners, this is where we sent software to basically go mess up Iran's nuclear enrichment program, and it worked. And I just think, like, in the military, like, let's say you create a new weapon that nobody else has, which is what we did. We created this new amazing weapon that nobody else has. And it can, let's say, for example, this is just hypothetical, this weapon can shoot through any kind of surface. What's the next thing you do? You make a surface that thing can't shoot through, right? That's the next thing you should do. We didn't do that. So we created industrial espionage / malware that can destroy ICS control systems, you know, from a remote, whatever. And when that got loose, it was used against us, and it was used against Ukraine, and we weren't ready for it. And so I think, you know, going back to the cybersecurity document, the government, they're now recognizing, hey, we probably should have done this before, but we need to shore this stuff up. I live in Western Colorado. Tomorrow, actually, I'm speaking at a meeting where I'm trying to get grant dollars to help with this. Like, it's no secret to Russia that 1/4 of the U.S. population is fed by a single river that runs through my town. And what have we done to make sure that all of the industrial control systems that control that water are secure? Probably not enough, right? Probably not enough. And so I think we're behind, and I think that we're finally getting, I think we're finally getting wise to the fact that we're at risk here if there were a larger kinetic impact, that this could be used against us. And I'll tie it to the role that everyone plays, including our customers and our constituents, and that is that this basic cyber hygiene thing that we talked about is, in my mind, and I've done talks on this, is in my mind a civic and national security issue, and it's a form of patriotism. And so what the threat actors are doing, remember, the threat actors are operating out of Russia. Let's say 85% of them are operating out of Russia or a Russian-friendly country like Belarus, Moldova, et cetera. What is the first thing they do? They take a copy of as much of our data as they can. Those threat actors in that country are not nation state actors necessarily, but they're afforded a sort of unofficial amnesty for that activity. Nobody's putting them in jail in Russia for doing this. There's a quid pro quo for that amnesty, right? The government gets a copy of that data.
Right.
Now Russia has exabytes and exabytes and exabytes of our data that they can use against us in these cyber warfare attacks. And I don't think that that's getting talked about enough. So I keep saying it over and over.
No, you make a frightening and great point there, is that when these ransomware attacks are successful in encrypting the data, no one's really thinking about that data exfiltration. No one's that copy of that data, where, there's no guarantee that the threat actor is going to actually destroy the data like they say.
Yeah. And let's assume they don't. Okay. I mean, they say they do, but let's assume they don't, because storage is cheap. Yeah. And so I think that's something that we need to consider, and it will be used against us, and it probably already is being used against us.